just loading.
Yep, we're there.
Yep.
Right, okay, let's start. Anyway, welcome to the meeting of the Transport Strategy Group, 23rd of June at, well, just a little bit later than 6 p.m. And we've got a very full agenda. My aim is to finish by about 7:15, but we probably won't make it. Depends. Right, Nick, any apologies? Oh, sorry, no, before we start, let's get the protocol sorted out. I have already said that the next meeting will be in the town hall, and it will be a physical live meeting here with people sat around the table. But also, I'd just like to introduce Nick Deere, who is the new Transport Strategy Administrator for Henley Town Council. Nick has taken over from Fiona, who did sterling work over a number of years, well, a couple of years. And Nick, we welcome you. If you want to say hello.
Thank you. Hi.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And Nick has been doing quite a bit of work to get this agenda together, and also quite a bit of research going backwards. And I did say to Nick that Nick is a full member of this committee, and if he wants to chip in with anything, he's welcome to, because we're a working group on this. Right. Okay, let's crack on. Number one. Patrick, welcome. Number one,
Thank
apologies for absence. Any?
No apologies for absence. Daryl is attempting to join us, but his internet is giving him difficulties. So he'll continue to try.
Okay. And number two, any declarations of interest? Okay, I see none. You will also see Amanda on the screen. Hello, Amanda.
Hello.
Amanda is not a member of the committee, but stay on the screen. But she will be contributing, well, whenever she wants to, but obviously mainly to do with item 6, the Hgv thingy as well. All right, number 3, public participation. I've already had a chat with Amanda, and she can talk at any time, and particularly number 6, Hgvs. Yep. So we will move over public participation. I will propose the approval of the minutes of the 24th of January. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, I will, David.
Okay, David. Any comments? I think they're fairly straightforward.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so let's just have a vote to approve that. All those in favour of the minutes? Thank you. That is passed. Right, number 5 is the first item on the agenda. And this is, well, one could say my item. As you know, we've got the 20-mile laser zone in the core of Henley. And this is, oh, right, sorry, no, there was one sentence of preface to this. We won't be making any decisions this evening. What I will do, because it's actually the planning committee that are the primary voting body on this, I will be hoovering up people's thoughts, comments, suggestions in order to take forward items to the planning committee on all the items on the agenda. So we won't be actually sort of saying, yeah, we'll pass a resolution on that particular item, because I think we've got work to do on a number of them. Anyway, that was the preface. Right. And the rule is, if I talk too much, which I do frequently, please tell me to shut up. Right, I've produced a paper on a 20-mile an hour for the whole of Henley. You've had the paper, so I don't intend to fully talk to the paper, but I just want to give you the general overview. The whole of the centre of the town is 20. And in conjunction with John Beale, who is the OCC officer to do with this, I, from my councillor grant pot, actually asked for a series of speed counts to be done. And it was in response to requests from St Mark's Road, St Andrews Road, Harpston Road, and Valley Road, and Gravel Hill, to actually, well, Gravel Hill is in the 20 at the moment, but to extend the 20-mile-an-hour zone. So we have got the data, which I've given you, the summaries in the report. And the rule is, if an area is hitting around about 24 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour, then motorists are likely to be compliant with the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. If they're traveling 35, they're likely to proverbially stick two fingers up to it. So what happened was that we looked at this, and the other thing to say is that Oxfordshire are completely funding this. We looked at this for the various roads that you have on page 9 of the data. And we then said, well, it's not a good idea to implement zonal 20-mile-an-hour zone. In other words, we do St Mark's only, St Andrews only, Harpston only. The recommendation from John Beale, the OCC officer, is that you've got to do St Mark's and roads off, St Andrews and roads off, Reading Road and roads off. And also it becomes confusing for motorists if they're flipping from a 20 to a 30 to a 20 to a 30. And if we looked at the map of Henley, practically all of the roads that we wanted to include covered the whole of Henley. Because if you look at the Reading Road and all roads off, Boston Road, Marmion Road, etc., if you look at Valley Road and all roads off, it's the whole of that lump. Abraham's Estate is already in the 20-mile-an-hour zone. Practically every road, with the exception of Grays Road at the top, were apart from Grays Road at the top, which wouldn't be available for the 20-mile-an-hour zone, then we would cover the whole of the town. So we then went to the conclusion that we should be encouraging a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit for the whole of the town for environmental reasons, but mainly also for people reasons. If people are walking down pavements, which are in some areas are narrow, or are in residential areas with children about, etc., then in fact what we should be doing is having 20-mile-an-hour zones for the whole of the town. Therefore, it is my suggestion that we do have a 20-mile-an-hour zone for the whole of the town, but we also include some traffic calming measures as a part of the package. Now, what I mean by that is that we would obviously take advice from OCC. It would involve platforms like the one by Valley Road School, or build outs. I quite like build outs where you have at the top of St Andrews Road. I'll give you an example. If you had a build out that was populated by trees and shrubs, in other words, a green build out, something that would enhance the visual environment, then it would force cars to actually go into a one-way system. You would say, you go first, you go second. So it physically actually slows people down. It could well be that we introduce white gates with a big 20 roundel and other things like that. As I've said, all of the funding is from OCC. I have taken advice from John Beale, OCC. In the paper, I've given the rationale. and I've also given the barriers to success. And at the end, my direction of travel is to apply to OCC to implement 20 for the whole of the town. We will, after this meeting, discuss further traffic measures with residents, because speed humps and ramps, speed humps and bumps can be unpopular with residents. So I'm going to stop there, as all of that was in my paper. And if anybody wants to chip in.
Hey, Dickie here. I'd like to, if I may. Sorry,
David.
my camera's not working, so you're spared watching me. I've always been very keen on 20 miles an hour across Henley, because quite a few years ago, the UK signed an international agreement to move to 20 miles an hour and 30 kilometers in the other European countries throughout, for safety reasons, because it reduces serious injury by 25–30% across the country. I think it's right to have a consistent approach across Henley, and I understand, because John Beale's working on it, that it's going to be consistent across other towns in Oxfordshire. And I think across the UK, you will find the great introduction of 20. It's going to be the new way of living. So the sooner we can get to it, because of our narrow streets and HGVs going through and large vehicles, I still think it's very necessary for us to implement it across the whole event. So I absolutely support this, and I hope it will show an improvement and reduction in our air quality measures as well. So, but I think drawing out the consistency across all towns, going to other countries, it makes it easier for a driver to, to manipulate or drive his vehicle through a consistent zone instead of the switching that you said. I think that's very right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hello?
Daryl first, then Amanda. Daryl?
Yeah, just can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Just to support, in my comments echoed David's comments. I think it's wise to look at a blanket policy. It is difficult, even for myself, trying to be conscious to switch in and out of 20s to 30s. It would be far safer, far more sensible to be on a blanket policy. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Amanda?
I was also going to endorse a blanket policy. We've got 20 miles an hour right in the centre of town. And you would say, well, when the town's congested, that can't be exceeded. But there are a number of occasions when stuff does blatantly exceed that and is speeding along in excess of 30, 35, 40 miles an hour. So it's a question of really getting through to drivers that they have to exceed to this. And the sign we've got at the moment, the small signs, most of them are bent by HGVs. So they don't know about it.
And I've just realised on the data, I was just scanning through it, that the top of Grays Road was not included originally in the speed data. So we commissioned another lot, and you have not been given the data for the top end of Grays Road.
Right.
But it was quicker than the other areas, so we would have to look for those measures going through the Ken.
Yeah, all I would say, Stefan, and I think everybody's going to be in favour of this, but it definitely does need some kind of enforcement to make it work. I think, Gravel Hill's a prime example at the moment where it's not working, and it should be working there. Cars are still going up there at a pretty high speed. And I think that's one of the things Oxford County Council should do if they're going to bring this 20 mile per hour scheme throughout the county. There should be some enforced methods there. And to be fair, it's not rocket science to do it. But I think if you do it, you will then get cars or vehicles to hover around 20, 25 miles per hour. But if you do nothing, I think they're almost carry on the way they're going, personally.
No, I think you're right, and I would agree with you on that. Patrick?
I'm really impressed with the success of smiley signs in enforcing 30 miles an hour. Is it possible to have smiley signs for 20 miles an hour?
The answer is yes, and item 10 on the agenda is when we will have a chat about that.
Great.
Yeah. The other thing, and then I'll come to Jackie. The other thing I will say is that I am in talks with a lady on Grabble Hill and also Neil Gunnell, who is the neighbourhood watch person for St Andrews, to buy 2 speed guns for Henley so that we can just have them permanently here rather than relying on Thames Valley Police. And you can buy them from Amazon for 120 quid. They are Thames Valley Police approved. So we will have 2, and it would tick Ken's box of having people more in high-vis jackets having a presence. And by the way, there was a neighbourhood speed watch done on Grabble Hill about 3 days ago, and I got the information. Amanda, sorry, Jackie, sorry, I apologise.
Oh, that's
Jackie?
okay. I can go after Amanda.
No, I had
it,
nothing more to say.
no, it was Jackie. Jackie, go for it.
Thanks. Yes, it's good news that OCC will fund both the implementation and the consultation. So my question is on the consultation. I know that we're not going to make any decision tonight, but the proposal says to implement the scheme. Will there be consultation, and when would that be? And then I have a second question afterwards on the data.
Okay, very, very quickly. Yes, the process of consultation is not any different from what would normally happen. So what will happen? But it's just that if we agree to it at Henley Town Council level, we apply on a portal of OCC. They take over the whole process and they implement the design and also the 3-month consultation period for this to come in. So yes, full consultation, with everybody who wants to chip in to Pennyworth. So that's the first question. Second question, Jackie?
Yeah, it's more interesting to note, and it depends on if I've interpreted the data correctly, but looking at the mean speed, it doesn't seem to make that much difference whether an area is currently 30 miles an hour or 20 miles an hour. So I'd be interested to know what the mean speed was of the areas before they went to 20 miles an hour to see if there's been a difference made. Yeah. Sorry,
no, finish, please.
I think that's mainly what I wanted to say, to see if you implement 20 miles an hour now to those that are currently 30, whether it will make the difference based on it, if it's been shown to make a difference before.
Okay. I have got the data. It's only Grabble Hill I can do this for, because we've got a lot of data on the Fair Mile, but that's out of the remit of this. I have the data before and after the 20 was implemented for Grabble Hill. I'll have to dig it out and have a chat with Nick and get it to the members of the committee. Yeah, I will do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ian?
No, I'm in favour of this for all the reasons that have already been given. It makes sense to have a large single blob in the town, which is 20, rather than switching from one to another. As you might guess, I'm in the office in West London, and where I am, I drive in on 20 miles an hour limited, and it has calming measures, bumps in the road. It also has speed cameras. And it also has the flashing signs that Patrick was asking about. So they can have them. And I know that a colleague of mine recently admitted to being fined for doing 26 miles an hour by a camera. So these are all possible. And so I'd like to see us do that. I do agree that the top of Grays Road is probably the single most uncomfortable area to walk in along the pavement in the town. Going back to Ken's point about enforcement, I agree with Ken that enforcement is important. But even if only half those who are doing, say, 25 miles an hour go down to 20, we still made the roads safer and more pedestrian friendly, and therefore we are winning, even if we don't get much in the way of additional enforcement.
Okay, right. There is a move in Oxfordshire to encourage, but it's actually been taken up by Thames Valley Police, to have more proactive enforcement of police presence of 20-mile-an-hour zones. So there is a move to that, because people have said quite rightly, what is the point of implementing a 20-mile-an-hour zone if there's no teeth behind it and people just flout it with impunity? So Ian, your point's right, which echoed Ken's earlier. Right, I'm gonna close this conversation. The broad thing.
Can I make just one simple comment? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Before you do, I'll let you in.
Most people I ask about
go for it.
The 20 and 30 mile an hour, a lot of drivers I know have said to me, "Where is the 20?" They drive through Henley as if it's 30. So those data that should be taken on the back of that, and that understanding. Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt.
No, David, it's fine. It's fine. So Nick and I will take from this conversation a broad support for the 20. We will mock up some more work on it, and we will also talk to the residents about traffic harming measures. And I think David's point explicitly makes it that we've got to have, coming into Henley, some physical restrictions with big 20-mile-an-hour blobs saying, look, Henley is a 20-mile-an-hour town.
Yeah.
And the other phrase I say is that people say, well, sort of, why should I drive at 20 miles an hour in Henley? Well, I'm sorry, driving at 30 miles an hour in towns is not a human right. People should abide by 20 miles an hour. And if you want to do 30, just naff off to the boundary of Henley and you can do 30, 40, 50 national speed limits. So it is not far to go to get your boy racer things out of your system. Stick to 20 in the town and then go outside the town to up the Fair Mile to do whatever speed you want. Okay, right. We will bring this back in a bit. Okay, right, moving on. Item 6, HGV restrictions and bollards on Bell Street. A bit of yap from me, and then I will probably hand to Amanda to actually say something and then talk about it. On the corner by Savills, we'll deal with the easy part. On the corner by Savills, we are going to have a bollard because HGVs do mount the pavement in that particular area, and it's very intimidating to pedestrians. The bollard will be a visual sign to HGV drivers to avoid driving on the pavement. So that will be coming in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We've looked at all the utilities and it can be done. So that is possible. Right, HGV restrictions. As you know, last December, we were about to get the next phase of the HGV study. And then the ruling administration at OCC, which is made up of Greens, Liberals and Labour, decided that actually point HGV bans, like point on a bridge or point in a village, were actually not the way to go. And because they thought that if we stop HGVs travelling through this point, they will be diverted to other points. And that was the point made over the Burford scheme. If HGVs are not going through Burford, they're going to go through other villages. And that's why the Burford scheme was rescinded. So Burford Town, having spent 140 grand on the scheme, that money is now lost because it's stopped. But OCC were going to go to what was called a zonal scheme based around 18 ton. And the conversations, well, Amanda and I have had, and I've had other conversations with Duncan Enright, who is the OCC Cabinet Portfolio Holder, that they would be developing a policy for 18 ton zonal, which would mean that Henley and the surrounding villages would become an 18 ton zone. People who have businesses within that area, Manor Concrete, for example, would still be able to transport their goods outside of the area, but through 18 tonners would be banned, which is, you know, the best that we can get. So the 7.5 ton limit has gone. So it will be based around an 18 ton. And as Amanda will tell you in a moment, I have been banging at Duncan and also two other OCC officers that I won't name because it's not fair, to say, when is this policy coming? Can we have it, please? We want it now. But he has said there is a sense of urgency to it. I would guess we would get a policy round about September, October, and then it would be debated. The key thing was this, though, that I said to Duncan, what about you having an evidence base for this? In other words, finding out the destinations of where HGVs go from to. And he said, we wouldn't need that because, by the way, that would have cost Henley about 50,000 quid to get the data on where HGVs are going through the town to Didcot, wherever. We wouldn't need that because it would be the policy of OCC, policy of the council, that we have this area around Henley and area around other places of 18 ton. And it would be, in law, that would be it. Tough. Do it. Okay, Amanda, chip in, and then I'll ask anybody else who wants to.
Well,
so the summary is we're waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my reason for logging on tonight was really to get an update as to where we were, because the trail seems to have gone very quiet. Obviously, I'm speaking on behalf of the campaign that was supported very heavily online, and is, you know, we've got a lot of people behind us. We are encouraging people still to take photographs of large, particularly continental, obviously through HGVs, and send them to hgvwatch.com, and we then send them on to OCC, so that we've got a body of evidence showing what we believe to be the case, which is that a large number of through large HGVs are coming off the M4, using us as the long side of the triangle to get up to the A34 instead of staying on the M4 down to junction 13 and then going up. You can see that by their signage, their number plates. They're clearly not vehicles which are delivering locally, and these are the ones that are doing the damage to the town and ending up all over our pavements. We totally understand that we're not going to get a limitation down to 7.5. And I think personally, 18 tons is acceptable, but it's got to be something that is enforceable. And therein lies the concern, because a lot of the soundings that I've heard behind LTCP5, which is this new evolution that OCC announced at the end of last year, and which they have actually said they're going forward with today. They've put an announcement out. A lot of that seemed to be based on voluntary agreements with the haulage industry. And we know for a fact from past voluntary agreements which they've had from them, which Stefan can verify, they're broken. The haulage industry ignore them and flout them. So that's why we need to have some kind of legal force, whether that's zonal or whether it's a specific weight limit, but it has to be capable of being enforced legally. Otherwise, we're going to be no further forward. And the other thing that's interesting today, I noted, is that OCC have said they're going forward with HIFA 1. which is fine in itself. It's the development of Didcot. They're looking at not only 11,000 houses going in there, but also 880,000 square foot worth of additional warehouse and office space. And then again, our problems are contributed by the distribution centres, which have been set up at Didcot, and some of them also at Wallingford. So again, we have to think about the forward impact of traffic servicing that little lot. That's really what I wanted to say.
No, you're right. And yes, we will carry on pushing for this paper to come out, etc. Amanda, you're absolutely right that a voluntary agreement is a waste of time. You know, we always refer to the Hellcrow map, the freight strategy for Oxfordshire, where there's a big blob over Henley saying unsuitable for HGVs. Well, you can see it's a complete waste of time. Right, anybody else wants to? Right, Ian first, then Ken. Thank you.
I'm disappointed that the limit's been raised from 7.5 to 18. 18 is still quite a large vehicle, contributes a fair amount of pollution, noise, and inconvenience and traffic. And if they've not got business in the area, and I'd still like to see them excluded. Can you explain what the reasoning is for the raising of this limit, and whether or not it's worthwhile or questioning it at least? Because I would rather see the 7.5 ton limit imposed.
Okay. Yeah, I'll answer that in a moment. Ken first.
Yeah, I think there's more people who have got information on the HGV than me. So I just want to go to the bollard, and as Amanda has probably seen outside her front door, just an ordinary bollard gets knocked down fairly quickly. I don't know what they're proposing to do there, but I suggest they put one of these bell bollards there, providing it won't take up too much room. I think that's the answer, because if something hits them, they'll probably leave the bell bollard behind. So I think an ordinary one would be a waste of time. I think you just knock that over in no time.
Okay, right. I'm hoovering at the comments, David. Yep.
Actually, on the bollards too, have you looked at buses coming down Bell Street and turning into New Street?
Yes.
The front of the buses go right over that curb too.
Yeah,
but they're aware.
Yeah, but on that curb there are two huge steel poles for signage. So on that corner, I am worried, but I wasn't overly worried because there is some protection there for people by the teddy bear shop.
Fine.
By Asquith.
The second thing is,
go on, David.
The Didcot centres and the housing all being developed. There is, of course, a new road being planned from Didcot across to the Wallingford to Oxford Road. So a brand new road going across there will also attract HGVs. But I actually think that if you're going to have new developments in Didcot, in the planning of them all and given the approvals, there ought to be something that says these are the HGVs rules that you have to apply. And Oxford County Council ought to be advising them of that. You cannot take more than, if it's 18 tonnes through Henley. You've got to go round the other way. They ought to be, as the new warehouses are put together, they ought to be advised this is the basis on which you get approval. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this particular one? And then I'll answer the few that have been asked, or try to. Right, okay. Okay, let me deal with the bollard first. I'm not going to go into, well, Nick will know why. I'm not going to go into detail of what the bollard is, apart from to say that it is a clever bollard. If that bollard does not work, then we will look towards other bollards. For example, a bell bollard maybe at there, but to a certain extent, you'll have to trust me on the bollard. I don't really want to go into any further detail. I will privately if you want, so to reassure you, but I'm not going to in an open meeting. Okay. It is a clever bollard. It is a visual clue to lorry drivers. Oh my God, there's a bollard there that will damage my lorry, so therefore they will avoid it. Maybe we'll see. Let's see what happens on that. And as Amanda knows, her bollards, which are solid cast iron jobs, were knocked over and broken by a
it was by a delivery van, delivering
yeah.
to the pet shop that pulled out too hard. Actually,
Right.
Stefan, is there any way that we could get a better camera on that bollard? Because when an impact happens, we need to be able to record which vehicle has impacted.
There are no plans to get a camera in the bollard at all.
Right.
So no, it would have
Watching too much cricket.
Yeah.
That's
No,
an
it would
idea.
have to
Put some cricket stumps there. Now we're
yeah. Yeah.
We're going to rely on VAR, Ken.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Ian's point about he's disappointed that it's an 18 ton rather than a 7.5 ton. By the way, 18 ton is removal vans, fixed axle removal vans and upwards is covered by an 18 ton and 3 axle articulated as well. To be honest, I don't know definitively why it's gone from 7.5 18. I can only speculate that, having had the experience of Burford where they did a lot of data gathering, then it was actually the enforcement and the data analysis, enforcement of fines that caused them to go for an 18 tonner. It reduces pollution. It doesn't stop all big lorries coming through, but it stops the biggest ones, etc., etc., etc. If you want, I will find out more information on that, but I haven't. The reason why I haven't is because, if OCC administration are saying, right, it's 18 ton from now on, I'm sorry, I'm going to accept that as what they want to do, and get 18 ton for Henley, and then maybe say, well, it's not working and there's still big lorries coming through, therefore we need to lower the limit. So that's why it's me just being pragmatic, I think, on that. Ian, you come back on that at me if you wish in a moment. Jackie.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's also because this has gone towards a more county-wide strategy, so there would need to be the same policy across the county, which might be difficult to make that 17.5 across the county, so they've gone for 18.
7.5, yes.
7.5, sorry. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, you're right. It may well be that. Ian?
Yeah, I'm just looking at 18 ton images of 18 ton vehicles on my phone. They're big, they are, and I don't want to see anything sort of approaching that coming through the town. But I think your point, Stefan, that it's a bad idea to try and fight a losing battle against the county council. But if it's just something that they're perhaps not so strongly wedded to, asking the question and making the point may make them change their minds. But they may have reasons that they regard as good ones, in which case, no matter how disappointed we are, we may as well try and fight battles that we're going to win rather than just a losing battle.
Okay. Take my assurance that what I will do is I will ask the question and I will send the email to all members of the committee and Amanda saying, well, this is the reason. Amanda?
I was just going to add, I've just checked through my records, and the 18-ton thing came out at the time of Burford. And I think it was because of the number of axles that they've got and how they were actually measuring them across the roads with the sensors, etc. But my attitude has always been, you know, you pick your battles, and we have to start somewhere. And the most important thing is to get the biggest out and see what we can live with and work down. We cannot get rid of everything, but we just need to get rid of the very large ones that are through ones as a starter and see where we get to from there. And maybe we can rein that back from there, but let's get something done.
Okay. Well, I'm going to close the discussion on that. There will be obviously further discussions, and we will, the Royal We, Henley Town Council, me and Amanda will push for an early response from Duncan to do it. He came to Henley 8 o'clock in the morning. Amanda and I walked around the whole of the town, and I have quoted many a times he was horrified by the lorries coming through Henley. And he actually stood as a Labour candidate for the constituency of Henley when Michael Heseltine was here. So he knows Henley pretty well. So, but we won't hold that against him. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Thanks very much. Right. Well, fortunately, item 7, air quality, I'm handing over to David Dickey. So you don't have to hear me talking all the time. So right. David,
thank you.
Air quality, please. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'm going to start off by making a comment about on June the 17th, DEFRA spoke about where we are as a country on air quality. And on nitrogen dioxide, they said that we're behind. And the reason we're behind is they blamed the public for not engaging enough. It's nothing to do with them, but nitrogen dioxide levels that are possible. I mean, there's still lots of concern about it, but when they're actually going to get to do it, seems to be being put off. On particulates, they say they hope targets will be set by the end of 2022, and action plans will come in 2030. It might well be beyond my lifetime. So that's where DEFRA stand. They're sort of saying it's not going absolutely great, but we're doing as much as we can. If that doesn't give you any satisfaction, but it's a very difficult environment to fight this battle. On nitrogen dioxide in Henley, I would say that towards the end of 2021, I was very, very concerned still. The data in Duke Street and with our diffusion tubes were showing signs of being above the legal limit. Through April, May, June, actually the levels have been well below the legal limits. Nitrogen dioxide below. In fact, the last 2 days, it's gone back up again. So the jury's out on it, but there was an encouraging period for a while. On particulates, I don't know if you want to talk to particulates, but I would just add at the end, so I'll do it at the beginning, is that I've started the experiment with a very low cost device. I need a lot more time playing with it in terms before I can come with a recommendation of some sort. But it did, some van or small lorry came and parked in front of me and the device, the monitor, left their engine running. So I could see that it was actually measuring the particulates and showed just one vehicle on a day of very light traffic made a difference to the measurements, which I found quite exciting. However, I mean, that's all I've got to say. You know, our diffusion tube program will continue to run. I will be interested to see if it continues to. It's in Duke Street where the data is high, because I haven't got live data from the diffusion tubes in Bell Street. But we'll have to see what June and July bring, and but we won't see that for a month or so. But in Duke Street, it has gone up the last 2 or 3 days. Thank you. Any
Well, I
questions?
think the idea on that is we'll wait for David to go around the town with his new device. David, does your new device do particulates and NO?
No, it doesn't.
No, it's a particulate monitor. It
It's
does all the
purely
it does,
particulate.
it does
Okay.
PM1, it does PM1, PM2.5, PM4, and PM10.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. So I think we'll wait for David to go around and get some more data with the new device. Just to explain, we had the only particulate monitor at the bottom of Grays Road by the Screaming Frog for 12 months. And the data it produced, in summary, was that PM 2.5s, which are the small particles that can go into the bloodstream, were reading on average about 6, which is below EU and UK limits of 10. But, and this is the but very close to the World Health Organization limit of 5. So we were legally compliant with EU and UK, but we were very close to what the World Health Organization are recommending. And of course, their recommendation is no particulates is the best option. Any questions for David or comments?
Yeah, just a comment, David, you provided a graph. Did you want to?
No, I'll talk to that, Nicholas. Thank you.
Okay.
No, I'll talk to it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Right. Ian?
David's comment about DEFRA saying that the problems of air pollution not being addressed are the fault of the public are quite astounding, really, given the government has been repeatedly defeated in the courts when it's tried to defend its strategies that it's produced over recent years. I mean, multiple defeats by environmental organisations who've brought in judicial reviews, who've claimed and been whose claims have been upheld that the government has not produced the strategies that it's legally obliged to do, and it's clear that the DEFRA themselves and the government are not inclined, don't regard it as a priority, and that's where the delays in resolving and improving the problems with air pollution and air quality, that's where they lie.
Sorry, I'm fiddling with my machine at the moment, so it just started something. I can't make it. Ah, right. Okay, we're there. Sorry, I was just preparing something else. Patrick, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, just picking up on what David has said, Andy, in 2030, we can't wait for that, can we? And I think that hopefully, if this little device works, that maybe we can have a public information campaign in Henley so that we can actually persuade people with these dirty old diesels, like the one I used to have, to stay out of the town centre and actually have our own campaign and do something about it ourselves.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Okay. I'm going to close this particular item off. Okay. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 8. Dave McEwen, Car Club, please.
Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I'm sitting sort of on Nick's shoulder, sort of, well, almost. Okay. If that's okay. Yeah, just a follow up from the last item, really, before I dive in, is that one of the things that would help would be people joining the car club. And so the more successful we can make the car club, then that's going to help bring pollution down. Okay, car club, where are we at? Well, story so far, just quick reminder, in case anyone's forgotten, we started just over a year ago, April 2021. It was a 2-year trial where SODC and Henley Town Council put in the funding with the idea that after 2 years, then the car club will be self-supporting. we talk about Henley Car Club. In fact, it's run by Co-Wheels, who are a national developer, promoter of car clubs and a social enterprise. So Henley Car Club is just the local badge for that. The target that we were sort of given, I mean, the real target is obviously the financial one, that the cars become break even. But Co-Wheels, just for guidance, said, well, generally speaking, 35 people will support each car in being self-sufficient, in being self-funding. Look at it the other way around, each car will allow 35 people to car share, is the other way of looking at it. If I can then give you the figures for the end of May, so this is now 13 months in, currently the car club has 66 private accounts and 6 business accounts, 72 accounts. And so we've sort of hit that target. The utilisation figures are interesting in that I have to be a bit careful with this. Co-Wheels, this is a commercially sensitive area to start talking about exactly where cars break even and so on, apparently. So, but anyway, the utilisation figures, the Market Square car, it continues to exceed expectations. Jonathan, who's the guy who is the manager of our account at Co-Wheels, he used the word phenomenal at one point in just looking back over the trajectory to date. The Reading Road car was didn't actually move down to the Reading Road until July, and it's beginning to catch up in terms of utilisation after a sort of a slowish start. It is on one end of our target area, and I think it has just been taken a while to make an impact there. Why has it been successful? Somebody said, I think when we were around the launch time, it's an idea whose time has come, and I think that's right. We have also enjoyed a lot of support in the community, in particular through the business partnership, and you know, talking to local businesses there, I think that's one reason why we've got 6 business accounts. I'm not quite sure who those are, but for example, I mean, Philip Booth, the estate agent you might be aware of, he thought it was a brilliant idea, and was happy to sponsorship, to give us sponsorship for promotion and marketing, you know, for 1 year. So that's good. There's now a Facebook page and the On-Thames Car Club Facebook page. So do share and like and whatever you do if you're on Facebook. Where next? Which is perhaps the sort of nitty-gritty. Well, it's interesting that that we had a meeting recently, we being Stefan, myself, it was Fiona at the time, plus Co-Wheels, because SODC, in the form of Sue Cooper, who is chair of Climate Emergency Committee, is that right, Stefan?
No, she is cabinet portfolio holder for, I think, for the environment, which includes car clubs.
Okay. Okay. Anyway,
no, she's not chair of Climate Emergency, but she's
right,
one step up from that.
Anyway, they were interested in how things were progressing, and something that they want to look at promoting and developing in other places within South Oxfordshire. So that was a very worthwhile meeting, and out of that came, well, I think Stefan sort of initiated the idea that, look, we're looking to get a 3rd car in Henley as soon as possible. Co-Wheels want some extra funding. Funding an electric car, it costs more than funding the hybrid, and of course costs are changing sort of all the time. So, but they would be happy with 11,000 of extra funding. So Stefan has suggested that if the Town Council and SODC go 50-50 on that, then we could progress this hopefully fairly quickly. So that's where we're at. I think it's quite important that we get a third car in place, well, as soon as possible. Ideally, I would say by by September, or at least the decision taken. Oh, I missed out one thing as well about the talking to SODC. You'll be aware about the is it 10 or a dozen electric charging points in Grays Road car park. So we have taken the opportunity to say to them, can we have one of those please for our third car? So that's being actively looked at and pursued. I think that's sort of, well, perhaps sort of going forward, then I think if we can take the opportunity to take money from developments that take place, there's developments coming up on the Fair Mile and so on. So there is going to be some still money available. That if we can take the opportunity to to make use of that, to actually putting in place more electric car club cars, that would be great. One other thing that perhaps is also worth mentioning is the Premier Inn development, which has all gone quiet. I don't know whether anyone can add anything to that, but I certainly put in the paper and put in a sort of objection, and as did the town council on that. And we're hopeful that should that go ahead, that there would be car club cars provided in mitigation for the loss of the parking spaces in the station car park. Okay, probably said enough. Hope I haven't talked too long.
No.
Happy to answer any questions, or Stefan, have I missed anything?
Well, I'll just chip in one thing, and then we'll go to questions. Yes, we had the meeting with Sue Cooper. By the way, I've Googled it. She is member for the Environment, Climate Change and Nature Recovery. So to get her title correct, Sue was there. She is a green lobbyist. She cycles all over the place, even from Wallingford to Didcot, Benson to Didcot to council meetings. So she's a great advocate for car clubs, etc. And as David has said, we can get a fully electric car. That's the third one we're heading for, that will be in the Grays Road car park, occupying one of the filling stations in Grays Road. And the funding for this could come from SODC, could come from Henley Town Council. It could also come from Section 106 agreements with the new Highland Farm development of, well, Ken will correct me, 100 and twiddly watt homes. And also I have asked for a Section 106 agreement on the Fair Mile site for the town bus, and also a contribution to the car club. So if we get 10 grand contribution from Highlands and 10 from the Fair Mile, it will mean that the car club will be really on a solid foundation, and we will be able to just go forward. It should become self-funding and self-perpetuating, but we've still got to encourage it. So that's what I am. And I am at a conference tomorrow for 5 hours tomorrow with David Ruane, who's the leader of SODC, so I can sit next to him and bend his ear about getting an SODC contribution to this as well. So that's what it is. Right, any questions for David? Ian?
What would the cost be of the third car if it was electric?
11,000 for 18 months.
Okay.
I see no questions. So David, well done. It's taken us a while to get to here, but you've done brilliantly well. And as you said, the marketplace one is very, very successful, and the Reading one is, well, catching up. So right, we will carry on talking, and we'll try and get the dosh for the third one. Okay. thanks very much on that item. Right, moving on then. Walking routes. I hope we can close this one off so that we never ever have to talk about walking routes again. This is, I mean, how long is it since we sat in your kitchen, Patrick, and created the grand scheme over a coffee? 2.5 years, 4 years. Oh, right. Okay. Well, my memory is very bad. The idea is we were going to have a scheme where we had wooden posts dotted around the town where it would be, it's like a passive encouragement. If you walk to Henley from here, it's going to take you 10 minutes and you can leave your car at home. And Fiona did an awful lot of work on this, and there is a document, walking routes, which I'll send around to the committee, that identified locations and also the posts that we were going to have. And we have now got agreement from OCC, John Beals, that provided we put the posts in a sensible places. So Nick and I have got to get on our bikes and cycle around the town, and Lawrence has some experience of that, where we cycle around the town and we definitely identify where these posts are going to go. We get a definitive design for what's going to go on the posts, and it will be very, very simple. If you walk from here to the town hall, it's 0.2 of a kilometre and it will take you 5 minutes. That's it. And we get the publicity wrapped around there. We talk to Walkers Are Welcome and the Ramblers Association to get a bit of publicity generated on this. So that is what we are going to do. There is funding in, we passed a resolution at Finance and Strategy, so we've already got £5,000 in the budget to do this. So I hope we will do it, implement it, and then next agenda item, we're going to sort out these cycle routes that Lawrence and I have been talking about going forward. Right, so any questions on walking signs? Jackie. And Jackie, you helped us in the initial phases of this. Yeah. So Jackie, go for it.
Thank you. That wasn't what I was going to say.
No.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
Thank you anyway.
I was just going to say that 2 of the places should be where we want to encourage park and walk, one being the rugby club and the other one being the other side of town.
Okay, right, we will note that and have a look at that. It might be more appropriate, not a wooden sign, to actually have a roundel or something on that. Yes. So yeah, no, we will look at that, and we'll personally come back to you, Jackie, on where it's going to go.
Thanks.
Any other? Right. Okay. Right. Good. So I will send you the definitive design that Nick and I agree on for the posts and also the location. So we've got to update the document that Fiona produced. Anyway, right. Moving on. Right. Item 10. VAS speed awareness. These are, well, Nick will tell us what VAS stands for, but the idea is we would like to buy 2 further speed flashing signs, with smiley faces, Patrick, etc., for locations around the town, some fixed, some movable. Nick, over to you. You've done the work on this. Thanks.
Okay, so yeah, VAS stands for Vehicle Activated Sign. So as you're approaching it in your car, the thing comes on and flashes to tell you what your speed is. In red if you're going too fast, or in green if you're going at an appropriate speed. I can share a screen to show you what they look like. Bear with me. Hopefully you can all see that. So
yep, we can.
The speed sign, there's a picture of it on the left there. They come in a couple of different varieties. One is powered by a couple of batteries that I think are about the size of a motorcycle battery. So quite small, probably a third of the size of a car battery. So there would be two of those in there. The downside to that is that you have to charge them. The alternative is that you get one that's got a solar panel attached to it. I'll stop sharing that now, let me better look. The solar panel version and the battery powered version are not much difference in price. It's you know, less than 10%, I think, difference. But obviously we'd know a definite figure at the point of ordering, because they're, you know, going up and down all the time. The difficulty, well, it's not a difficulty, but the thing about these signs is that they're not permitted to be permanent installations. So they have to be moved every 3 to 4 weeks, for which you're going to need a team of volunteers to do that. The battery powered one is obviously a little heavier. The solar powered one is just a little bit more awkward to take down and put up every time you move it. So for the solar powered one, it would need a team of 2 people, and for the battery powered one, could be done solo. They're mounted, they can be mounted onto existing posts, lamp posts, street sign posts, that kind of thing. Or we can buy a post from the supplier that that we can install as well. That's pretty much the kind of key details. So I see Lawrence has got a question.
Yeah. Just one thing before Lawrence comes in, then Patrick. The price, by the way, is 2,250 for the solar powered version. So the idea is we're thinking of 4,500. Probably with some extra fixing brackets, so that we can fix the brackets on 5 or 6 locations around the town and then move them around, so that they just clip onto the brackets, etc. Right, Lawrence, then Patrick. Okay, thank you.
How does one go about making that type of
Lawrence,
sign?
it was great to see you moving around the town. It was.
Gales. Well, because I thought it was the town hall, Gales was the closest place. Then Gales kicked me out at 7, so now I'm sat in everywhere else is too noisy.
Right.
But how do you make that sort of sign more permanent? Because most studies say that the old visual smile is one of the best ways of actually making people slow down. And I actually think even without enforcement, signs like that would be a great way of actually slowing people down.
Great.
Hey, wait, you two are sat in the bottom of the town hall. That's where I should be sat.
Yeah, you can come in if there's.
Nick, permanent?
Well, it was John Beale at OCC told us that that you know these things are just not permitted to be permanent. You have to move them around every 3 to 4 weeks.
But lots of towns have them permanently on the kind of the entrance ways into town, and they have like the unhappy face, unhappy face, unhappy face. Then once you hit the speed you should be doing, smiley face. So it's almost like a target.
I think we'll. Sorry, Nick. Just to. We will investigate the permanent ones as well, because definitely down the Fair Mile we walked up there. There's an absolute need for one on a lamppost there to slow people down. So yes, we will do a combination of both, because we have 2 permanent ones in Henley at the moment. We have one on the Grays Road and one somewhere else. Okay, Patrick, sorry, and then Daryl.
Yeah, it really relates to permanent installations. So I was going to ask the same question, but then mains power, because that's got to be cheaper. If you're on a lamppost, tapping into the mains, which I know that we're allowed to do with the permission of the supply, you know, with whoever is Scottish and Southern or whoever it is that supplies electricity. Can you investigate that as well? Because that must be the cheapest option, not having solar, not having batteries, but just going straight onto the mains.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, Daryl.
Yes, I understand the arguments around and the smiley face signs. I was traveling down on the South Coast and saw something which was on the other end of the spectrum, which was deadly effective. Was they had a slow down sign with all the same stuff, but it also flashed your number plate up. It had an ANPR camera in it, and boy, that got your attention. You're thinking, wow, it knows who my car is.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say. Some pretty clever ones out there.
Yeah. I've never seen that. So brilliant, Daryl. Thank you for that. Patrick?
Yeah, just to come back on that one, they had problems with those in Cambridgeshire. They were vandalized. I think someone took a tractor and a lift and just ripped it off the lamppost. So, you know, smiley faces are friendly, and not too many people would take exception to a smiley face.
Ian?
Well, I don't like these things. I think they look horrible, and I wish they didn't work, but they do. They do calm traffic, and they do encourage people to look at their speed and follow the limit.
Yeah.
On the choice between the different kinds, I'd like to see a comparison of the environmental footprint and sustainability of the different options, so that we do something which perhaps doesn't use expensive batteries and deplete resources in an unsustainable way. So that will be a factor in the choice that I made. And tapping into the mains or solar sounds better to me.
Yep. Okay. So we'll. Sorry, one minute. Okay. See you, love. Have a good meeting. Thanks. Right. Okay. Well, I think we're there on the meeting. Okay. Bye. Sorry, Catherine's going off to walk as a welcome. So everyone saying bye.
Bye.
So we will explore the VAS and a lot of these things will come before our planning committee very, very shortly to get authorization on it. So,
I'm sorry, Stefan, can I just ask about the funding? Yep. Are we again looking to get district council match funding, or are we going to have to do this ourselves?
We will, in the main, have to do it ourselves. I'm trying on the car club to get match funding, but the match funding route has finished now. Henley was the only town in South Oxfordshire that took the money from SODC. So it wasn't repeated. Didn't Wallingford didn't, but we got money for the particulate monitor and also the car club. So we did very, very well. And yes, those two things. So, but no, that funding has gone. So we will have to put a case to Henley Town Council for some of these. And with Nick, I will explore whether we can get SODC grant money for some of this. I have a bit in my county councillor pot, so that I could possibly put towards this. So yeah, that's a typical politician answer, isn't it? I will look to maybe possibly put funding towards this.
You're not forcing me to hold my breath, Stefan.
Well,
you to come with your begging bowl to finance.
Maybe, yes. And in fact, Kath has already asked for what bids of money we want through Nick for the next budget cycle. Right. So that is it. Thank you for coming to the meeting. The next two biggies will definitely be cycling routes. We'll get this sorted out, Lawrence, and the HGV reporting back. Those two items are big on the agenda. Patrick, then Daryl.
Yeah, just for the next meeting, does the group want to exhibit at Great Big Green Week in September? We're going to have lots and lots of stalls. There's an opportunity for car club, anything that relates to the environment, so air quality, you name it. That can include 20 mile an hour because it's also well-being. Just I'd like to put that on the table for the next.
The answer
meeting.
is yes, please. Yeah,
right.
We will, and I'll get it together. Daryl?
Yeah, just a comment. I'm sorry I've been so absent from so many meetings, but just an observation, having been involved with many of you, God, it seems like a million years ago, looking at a strategy, the strategy sessions we had. It is so positive to see so much of what we talked about coming into life and being implemented. It's just great. I mean, on so many fronts. So well done to everybody who's put their shoulder to the wheel and done some great work.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Daryl. That's well, a team effort. There's a lot of people around this screen now, and we set things down and then we just tick them off as we go forward. By the way, on your speed camera up Whitehill, I try and beat it. Sorry, I didn't really say that.
We're changing that over to a speed indicator one.
Ah, right. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Any finals? No? Well, again, Nick, can I say thank you for administering this? And we can close the live feed now, and that's it.